Precious. We're so glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
I am wondering to start out, if you could share with folks who might not be familiar what FIP stands for and the kind of stories that you tell and how you got involved with this project.
Yes, so FIP stands for Formerly Incarcerated Performer Project. Yes, I got into this program. I saw a flyer for it and was like, hey, I like to tell stories. I'm actually an interviewer myself, and I tell people stories about healing and overcoming. But I was also like, it's time to tell my story. So I was like, why not? And it turned out to be way different than I thought it would be. But yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. And right now, you're in the process of almost getting ready to perform your solo show. You could give us the 30-second pitch, what is your show about?
Sheesh, 30 seconds. Yes, well, in a smaller subsection of my story, it's about domestic violence, but on a larger scale, it's about how you take the things that you don't heal from with you, and it shows up in different ways.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you said, you sort of mentioned this before, that you're an interviewer, you're already a storyteller. Can you talk about that work? Had you been an actor before? Is this totally new to you? What is this storytelling that's already alive in your life?
Yes, well, monologuing, which is how we are telling these stories, is very new to me. I may have done it once, but storytelling and performing has been in my blood since a young child, so it was definitely something that I love to do already, and it's evolved. It's evolved, and I feel like being a part of FIP has opened my eyes to how grand your story can be, and how you can tell your story in a very short time, because I was like, how can I, it's a lot of story to tell in such a short time, but I was able to get it down, and when I was done, I was like, I feel complete. So it's bigger than me at this point.
That's wonderful. And I love that idea that after you wrote it all down, that you felt complete, or there was something that sort of had changed within you. I'm curious, acting, for anybody in the room who's an actor, you all know that that's a vulnerable experience, right? To put yourself on stage and to, be a different person and to share a story that's particularly a story that's your own. Could you talk a little bit about how this process of gathering, parts of your own life to present them to others, how this has impacted you, or how you feel like you have grown or changed through this process with FIP?
Yes. Oh, I've grown a lot. How many people in here are actors, actresses? Okay, that's right.
Actors.
Yeah, so whether you're telling your story or somebody else's story, it's always life-changing, right? Because you hear and you get to see from different angles, but this process particularly comes at a time where I'm in a deep healing transition for myself. And so as I went through and wrote down my story, I almost quit a few times. I was like, I don't know if I want to tell this story, but because I am being intentional with myself, and I'm intentional about where I'm at in the process, I was like, okay, I hit a wall. And in healing is very messy. It's not all bubble baths and sunshine. It's crying too. So I hit a wall where I was like, I don't know, this is a lot for me to digest and to take apart and to actually put together, because essentially, I said, it's a huge story that I have to put together. And I find myself after I sat and quit in my head a few times, it's I'm ready to push past this wall to get to the other side of this healing process that I'm in. And like I said, once I did that and I was able to, like, how do I get to now? Because my story goes from now and then it kind of reverses back to then and gets back to now. And I was like, how do I get back to now? And, like, once I figured out that process of, like, okay, this is now, it was like, it was worth the feeling that I went through of like pain and doubt and anger. So it was worth it.
And I know outside of telling your own story that you are a small business owner and a mental health advocate.
Yes.
And I'm curious if you could talk about like your journey to become a mental health advocate. Like, how did you start your business and what got you excited about this work, and how did you end up doing this?
Yeah, well, that's a long story too. But
30 seconds.
I actually always been a mental health advocate. So I've known my whole life who I was and what I was supposed to do. I was a healer. But for me, because I didn't know what that looked like, I found myself trying to heal people and being a martyr, and it didn't allow me to do my job the right way. So when I went into my healing journey, I realized that, of course, hurt people, but healed people don't heal people. We heal ourselves, and then other people follow suit in our journey. And so once I got that realization, I realized that I want to do this work, but I want to help people help themselves. And so I started A Pocket of Sunshine just from the inquiries that people would give me, like, how are you doing this? How are you on this journey? What does it look like for you? So I started to put together all the tools that I was using, and in that time, I also always wanted to tell other people's stories, especially like the women that are incarcerated, because I've heard so many like crazy stories that you wouldn't even think of because you just hear the crime, but you don't hear the backstory. You don't hear how people get there. And so I was like, this all makes sense for me to be in this space and for me to be the one to help people in this way.
We've talked about storytelling as a tool for healing, and I'm wondering if you could talk about theater and the process that you're in right now. Like, what have you found that there are things that are specific to theater that have been like different or helpful or not helpful in the process of healing, like theater as a medium?
Yeah, theater's been really helpful for me, just like I said, to say it out loud, like say my story out loud. And also like the process of healing, I'm finding that it's not just mental, it's not just talking about it, but you also have to let out emotion through your body because we hold trauma in our bodies. And again, I don't want it to sound like this beautiful, magical thing. Healing also can be traumatizing, so I had to be ready and willing to go through that process to get through that part of it, and being able to like act it out and really get deep within myself and be like, this is my story. I was rehearsing the other day, and like afterwards I was like, this is my story. And to be able to claim that and, you know, act it out and be fully into it has been transformational.
And I know, at least I find that something that's important in moments of vulnerability is like the people you have around you. And I've been fortunate to meet some of the other people who are working with you at Fifth. And I know we're lucky to have you here because you're missing some of their shows right now where you're going to be getting right there on time. Because you talk about like the process of working with other people who have maybe similar but not the same experiences, and how this has helped inform your process of making your own show.
Yes. Well, all of our stories is different. Literally, none of our stories is the same. And through the process of doing it in a monologue style, I think we all kind of found common ground, and we've found our own voices, and it's definitely a collaborative effort because we all got together and, you know, did all the exercises, and, you know, following our director's lead, we're able to like really grasp of like what kind of constructive feedback can we give each other. And it was like, you know, bouncing up, because I just seen the workshop and I thought we were going to be we were going to be writing our story and talking. That's what I thought. It was storytelling like that. And then we started getting in groups and doing, you know, voice exercises and, you know, clap plays and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, we are the theater. So it was a way for us to be able to, like, really dig deep into, like, this is your story, but this is how I see it from the audience, and this is how, you know, you can make it a little bit better, and, you know, every little detail counts. So, like, you're saying this, but just add a few more details into here so it can make a full story. And I think that's really, like, what FIP has become in this cohort, because they've done it before. Was like, we're, like, fully into each other's story and, like, able to see from all lenses what our story represents.
That's awesome to have such deep collaboration in that way. The show that everybody is going to see tonight, Collides, is about formerly incarcerated people who are navigating, among many other things, re-entry and what happens when you're released from prison and the struggles of trying to find a job. They're all at the sandwich shop because they can't find employment anywhere else. And I'm curious if there's anything that you feel like it would be important for all the young people in this room tonight to know about re-entry or formerly incarcerated people before we see the show tonight.
There's so many things. Y'all gonna make it to the show. But a couple of things is you'll never get the full experience because prison is such its own world, and the things that people go through is so deep, and a lot of times we're unable to tell people what we've been through. Mm-hmm. And coming out of it, I know, like, they're at a sandwich shop. Like, your ideal job, career choice, is not a sandwich shop, mm-hmm. unless you're the owner. And for a lot of people, that's the only career that they can get, maybe. And so I would imagine that they go through some hardships and some trials trying to navigate themselves and their families and who they are now in society, and from multiple lenses. Like, what does that mean for me legally, but what does that mean for me as a person, and what does that mean for me as a spouse, brother, husband, father, mother, whatever. So it's deep.
And I think actually some of those things that you just talked about, having been in Clyde's rehearsals, is in the script. Absolutely. I think we will see that tonight. Before we go, there's a running bit in Clyde's where everybody in the sandwich shop is trying to make their perfect Clyde's sandwich. And I'm curious if you have an idea, like, what is your perfect with a capital P sandwich?
Yes, I do. I love sandwiches. So my perfect sandwich would be a cheddar bun with, she knows, with turkey, bacon, and ranch, and avocado. We all like bacon.
Amazing.
That's great. Thank you so much, Precious, for sharing all of your thoughts and insights with us. Is there any place where these fine folks might be able to find you or your work? Or
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at APKT of Sunshine. That's a pocket of sunshine, but someone stole my name. You got to get first. Or apocketofsunshine.com, which is my website. Yeah.
And FIP has performances that are starting today, right?
Yes.
And if you're interested in getting to see some of the awesome FIP performers, including Precious, you can head to fip.org and learn more about that. Can we give Precious a huge round of applause?